Yellowstone National Park is a U.S. national park located in the western states of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. It is the first and oldest national park in the world and covers 3,468 square miles, 8,983 square kilometers, mostly in the northwest corner of Wyoming. The park is famous for its various geysers, hot springs, supervolcano, and other geothermal features, and is home to grizzly bears, wolves, and free-ranging herds of bison and elk. It is the core of the Greater Yellowstone Ecosystem, one of the largest intact temperate zone ecosystems remaining on the planet. The world's most famous geyser, the Old Faithful, is also located in Yellowstone National Park. Long before any recorded human history in Yellowstone, a massive volcanic eruption spewed an immense volume of ash that covered all of what is now the western United States, much of the Midwestern area and northern Mexico, and some areas of the Pacific coast. The eruption left a huge caldera 43 miles by 18 miles, 70 by 30 kilometers, sitting over a huge magma chamber. Yellowstone has registered 3 major volcanic eruption events in the last 2.2 million years, with the last event occurring 640,000 years ago. Its eruptions are the largest known to have occurred on Earth within that time frame, producing drastic climate change in the aftermath. The result of these eruptions and ensuing natural development, along with the effects of climate, is one of the most breathtaking and awe-inspiring locations in North America. Yellowstone can be called a textbook through which we can study development of the planet Earth through its various stages. We can also come to understand the nature of the Creator more fully, as a Creator's character is revealed in the created being. Surely Yellowstone is a textbook worth studying and a park worth visiting simply to experience its vast sensory pleasures. Yellowstone is at the northeast tip of a smooth U-shaped curve through the mountains, which is now the Snake River Plain. This curved plain was created as the North American continent drifted across a stationary volcanic hotspot beneath the Earth's crust. Yellowstone caldera is the largest volcanic system in North America. It has been termed a supervolcano because the caldera was formed by exceptionally large explosive eruptions. It was created by a cataclysmic eruption that occurred 640,000 years ago that released 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash, rock, and pyroclastic materials, forming a crater nearly a kilometer deep and 30 by 70 kilometers in area, 18 by 43 miles. The size of the caldera has been modified a bit since this time and has mostly been filled in, however. The welded tuff geologic formation created by this eruption is called the Lava Creek Tuff. In addition to the last great eruptive cycle, there were 2 other previous ones in the Yellowstone area. Each eruption is in fact a part of an eruptive cycle that climaxes with the collapse of the roof of a partially emptied magma chamber. This creates a crater called a caldera and releases vast amounts of volcanic material, usually through fissures that ring the caldera. The time between the last 3 cataclysmic eruptions in the Yellowstone area has ranged from 600,000 to 900,000 years, but the small number of such climax eruptions cannot be used to make a prediction for the time range for the next climax eruption. The first and largest eruption climaxed to the southwest of the current park boundaries 2.2 million years ago and formed a caldera about 50 by 80 kilometers in area, 30 by 50 miles, and hundreds of meters deep after releasing 2,500 cubic kilometers of material, mostly ash, pumice, and other pyroclastics. This caldera has been filled in by subsequent eruptions. The geologic formation created by this eruption is called the Huckleberry Ridge Tuff. The second eruption, at 280 cubic kilometers of material ejected, climaxed 1.2 million years ago and formed the much smaller Island Park caldera and the geologic formation called the Mesa Falls Tuff. All 3 climax eruptions released vast amounts of ash that blanketed much of central North America and fell many hundreds of miles away. As far as California to the southwest, the amount of ash and gases released into the atmosphere probably caused significant impacts to world weather patterns and led to the extinction of many species in at least North America. About 160,000 years ago, a much smaller climax eruption occurred which formed a relatively small caldera that is now filled in with the west thumb of Yellowstone Lake. Lava strata is most easily seen at the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, where the Yellowstone River continues to carve into the ancient lava flows. According to Ken Pierce, U.S. Geological Survey geologist, at the end of the last glacial period, about 14,000 to 18,000 years ago, ice dams formed at the mouth of Yellowstone Lake. When the ice dams melted, a great volume of water was released downstream, causing massive flash floods and immediate and catastrophic erosion of the present-day canyon. These flash floods probably happened more than once. The canyon is a classic V-shaped valley, indicative of river-type erosion rather than glaciation. Today, the canyon is still being eroded by the Yellowstone River. After the last major climax eruption, 630,000 years ago, until about 70,000 years ago, Yellowstone caldera was nearly filled in with periodic eruptions of rhyolitic lavas, obsidian cliffs, and basaltic lavas, Sheep-Eater's Cliff. But 150,000 years ago, the floor of the plateau began to bulge up again. Two areas in particular, at the foci of the elliptically shaped caldera, are rising faster than the rest of the plateau. This differential in uplift has created two resurgent domes, Sour Creek Dome and Mallard Lake Dome, which are uplifting at 15 millimeters a year, while the rest of the caldera area of the plateau is uplifting at 12.5 millimeters a year. Two of Yellowstone's dome areas have been rising at an increased rate since 2004. The Mallard Lake Dome and the Sour Creek Dome have risen at a rate of 4 to 6 centimeters per year since 2004. Preserved within Yellowstone are many geothermal features and some 10,000 hot springs and geysers, 62% of the planet's known total. The superheated water that sustains these features comes from the same hot spot described above. The most famous geyser in the park, and perhaps the world, is Old Faithful Geyser located in Upper Geyser Basin, but the park also contains the largest active geyser in the world, Steamboat Geyser in the Norris Geyser Basin. In May 2001, the U.S. Geological Survey, Yellowstone National Park, and the University of Utah created the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, YVEO, a partnership for long-term monitoring of the geological processes of the Yellowstone Plateau volcanic field. YVEO maintains a website to disseminate information about research, plans, and events concerning the potential hazards of this geologically active region. In 2003, changes at the Norris Geyser Basin resulted in the temporary closure of some trails of the basin. This coincided with the release of reports about a multiple-year USGS research project mapping the bottom of Yellowstone Lake that identified a structural dome that had uplifted at some time in the past beneath Yellowstone Lake. On March 10, 2004, a biologist discovered 5 dead bison which apparently had inhaled toxic geothermal gases trapped in the Norris Geyser Basin by a seasonal atmospheric inversion. Shortly after, in April 2004, the park experienced an upsurge of earthquake activity. These events inspired a great deal of media attention and speculation about the geologic future of the region. The U.S. government responded by allocating more resources to monitor the volcano and reminding visitors to remain on designated safe trails. The intervals between the historic large, caldera-forming explosions suggest that another such explosion may be due, if not overdue. That's all we have for today. See you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel.